Right, so I spent the last good while just double checking everything to do with the tracking. So I use my timber and make sure it's sitting on the same place both sides, because some places are lower. I double check here because we want a slight toe in, so a 1/4 of an inch toe in. So we are sitting there 5 inches, roughly, yeah. And we're sitting there at 4.9. So that's perfect. So now I'm just going to move this equipment over the other side and I'll do that check again. This is just fine. I have the front of the tractor jacked so that I was able to spin the wheel, spin the steering wheel left and right fully, just to get everything centralised. Then when I put it back into the middle, so I'll move everything over and come back. Equipment is changed over again, same thing. Try and get the wheel. I had this wheel, I had both wheels jacked up yesterday, so I made sure to twist them in a way that the timber sits right in the middle of one of these on both sides. And then we want a slight toe in. So we are sitting there now at 4.55. So we're talking about, if we get 1/4 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch, so not really that much. Once it's about just below 4.75, we're perfect, and it actually is just below 4.75. So that's just going to be enough. Now look, you don't have to be that fussy, but look, I'm just trying to do everything right here, so it's just coming in there just before 4.75. So again, these aren't they're not as if they're Ferraris or racing cars, but I do like to do it right anyway. And when you look down, you'll see the very slightest toe in on each side. That's exactly what you want. Now, that said, no, you can never train your eye to get this right, because the wheel is at an angle, you see, because these were fitted with wider tyres, so to clear this, you know, they did put it at a bit of an angle, like so. But there's just, it probably isn't even coming out here in the video, there's the very slightest toe in. And the idea is that when she goes down the road, then she'll actually straighten up a little bit. The front of the tyres will go a little wider and she'll straighten up a little bit. So that's how I do it. I'm after spending a little while at it now just to get it right, like, you know. But you just make sure again that you're and again the bonnets, you know, don't always. I'm trying to pick that little bonnet latch up there to line up with, like, you know. But of course, not everything's going to be perfectly lined up, so you don't really have to be very, very fussy. You know, you're talking roughly what they said in the Ferguson 20 was above the foot peg top stud. That's what they said. So I can go now and tighten up. Actually, I'm going to paint them track rod ends now, because they were in the vise a good few times, and as much as I did put a cloth in the vise, you know yourself there, I'll give them a quick rub of sandpaper and plenty of rust primer on them, and then I'll give them a spray. But I think now what I'm going to get going at is this bonnet latch that has landed. Let's get that fitted. Let's trial fitting the latch. Now there's two ways you can put these kind of retainer springs on, right? I'm after turning them the other way around. They were originally turned the opposite way, so this was higher because you have a spring kind of above it, right? So I'm after swapping that, because I know as soon as putting the latch in, this needed to be further down. So that's the reason why I think the latch wasn't actually pulling the hatch close, because this was too high. So I've turned them around. I'll check it now and see, does that manage to keep the hatch closed. So I had to lower this little crossbar here by putting washers under each side, and I noticed here as well. So the same story with this one here. These are tightened up to the end of the threads and they're still loose, so I'll put a washer under that when I'm at it as well. So I had to cut a slot around the latch myself, and so I could fit in this circlip, and I put a washer in behind it as well, and I put rubber under there just like I did there, so that should make things a bit quieter. So So the only rattling now in it is that lad. So I get him off and get a washer on him. I'm also going to lower that little cross piece there as well. So I'm fitting 2 washers above the cross piece to drop it a little bit, so that it'll give a bit more of a pull on the latch when it's closed. I tested it on one side there on this one, and it does seem to be pulling a lot better. So I'll go now and get these washers fitted. A little bit more awkward up here to the front. So there is a little bit of fine tuning. Every track is different. So I managed to get that rattle out of it as well. Just a matter of putting a washer or 2 underneath it. Okay. So now, when we close this, there was a little bit of movement in it before now, and it's just a bit more solid now, and that now as well. So what it's going to do is it's just going to take all of the rattles out of it. The only thing that's rattling is the bonnet. That's the only thing that was rattling there. Everything else is nice and quiet. So we'll drop the bonnet down there. Let's see. Put it back on the camera stand because you have to open this latch first. Down goes the bonnet. So yeah. And the beauty of having the little rubber washer under there as well is it just gives that little bit of slack there. It takes up that little bit of, and the same with that, there's a rubber washer underneath that, so that's just a bit better. Because what was happening with these as well before they were falling out was this was rubbing off the coach bolts each side, so we don't want that happening. We want to be able to turn it and for it to turn nice and straight. So that's the bonnet quiet now, especially when we use our little latches down here that I fitted that go in under there. When we put them on, that'll keep everything pulled down, you know, nice and snug. Yeah, so there was a bit of work in that, to be honest. I had to cut a slot with a hacksaw around it, get it in the right place, find a few different washers to take up any free play around with a few kind of different types of washers and stuff to get it right. But it is getting there now. Bit of a polish on the bonnet now. I think we're nearly at that point, and then just touch up those the marks. I'll do them when I'm happy with these bonnet latches. So that's where we're at the moment. Our tracking is set, and yeah, we're ready to move on to, I think there's another part here I wanted to fit. This clip that goes on there, so that's just kind of meant to just hold that in place. So I wanted to get that, and yeah, we'll see what's next for doing then. So for this part here, right, we got a bolt, a lock nut, and a clip. Now I'm going to try and show you. There's a hole just above, it's just there, and the clip goes in there. That little end of the clip goes in there. So I'm after giving this a spray with my trusty penetrating oil, and to get the likes of that out, you know, you don't want to be baiting it. I don't really need to replace it, of course, but I have a new one. So I always find the best way of doing it is just fit your socket over it, At least that way we're going to do the minimum amount of damage to everything. You don't want that to be broken off, and that's starting to oblige us now. So I get an aluminium or a brass copper drift, anything like that, and I tap it out the rest of the way. So let's see, because I'm fairly sure this was never taken out before. So I'll get one of them drifts and we'll see if we can get that out. Right, so aluminium drift. There we go. Nice and easy. Don't want to be unnecessary damaging things. Tap it out with that. Ow. And there we go. Ready to fit the new one. As long as this lines up, because some of these can be metric. Whereas the originals were UNF Imperial. That's a little tight, so I'm just going to give that a quick rub of the files. Mostly just a bit of rust, I'd say. File time. Let's see if we can get in. Ah, yeah. We'll be able to just clean that up a little bit. And we'll just try the bolts through it. Yeah, I'm getting there now. Lovely. A bit more. I've these adjusted up, these pedals adjusted up nice and level, as you can see. When you push down both, they're nearly perfectly level. That's the way you want them. Both brake drums working the same amount. Right, we're a little bit, a bit more to do, I'd say, do we? Ah, no, we'll get it. That's perfect. So, I might as well, since this has to be moving, give it a quick rub. Wire brush. Get under there with a bit of sandpaper. Same job at the inside one. There as well. Might be a long time before that sees the light of day again. A quick clean. Penetrating oil, a rub of rag. This isn't vital, of course. Once it moves at all, it'll be perfect. But by God, they sure put the metal in these Massey Fergusons. Look at that. It's unbelievable how good it cleans up. Like, where are you ever going to see metal these days cleaning up like that? Like, amazing stuff altogether. And I just enjoy, personally, I just enjoy working with that sort of quality of material. So I'm going to put this into the vise and just give it a bit of a clean up. So just a quick clean up. Scotch-Brite, the screen Scotch-Brite is awful handy stuff. Giving things a bit of a clean up. Lovely. Lovely. That's looking good. And sure, it would be a sin if we didn't put a bit of grace on it. A bit of grace. Should have been an awful sin altogether if we didn't put any of that in there. Yeah. That's the part number on the other side of it. Huh? Mind you, I don't think much of them are ordered now with how much metal is in them. See, they never failed. comes. And then, so that goes there, that goes in there. I have to push this down first to get that lined up here into the slot. And then we bring him up. There's only one thing I will say, it doesn't have a washer. There wasn't a washer given as part of the pack, so I'm just going to go and get a washer for that. We're into all the showy stuff. We've got a nice brass washer to look well, and because we'll be able to see it. So that should just push up a bit more now. So we have our clip on. We have everything greased up. So that goes in there. I might need to put a screwdriver in the bottom here. There is a Phillips head slot for it. So if it turns, that's what I'll do. So I'll keep my finger on that to feel, is it going to turn or is it going to stay put? It's turning because I greased everything up. Yeah, sometimes there's an argument for not greasing everything up. But them bites are wrong. Happy with the quality of this part. It's good thick metal in that clip. I don't want this too tight. Lovely. So there's a dimple in this, in the off position and in the on position, and that little ball in there, that kind of a dimple just goes into it. So there's one click there for basically near the off, so you can use them independently. If you were ploughing, say, and you came to the end of the headland and you wanted to make a good sharp turn, you could press this. It would lock up this wheel and the tractor would turn very, very sharply to the right. And likewise, if you press him, it would lock up the far wheel and then you'd turn very sharp left. Some people do that when they were ploughing, like. Or if a wheel was spinning when you were ploughing. Yeah. So that dimple catches just this side of it here and stops it. So I'm just going to tighten that a little bit more. Of course, it's spinning underneath, it's a lock nut, but anyway. Now, get the right tension on it. Lovely. And there's too much tension. This is all those fine tunings you have to do. Yeah, we don't want it too hard to work. So just a bit more than that, and we'll call it done. Now you just see it starting to pull it there. Lovely. So up comes the left pedal into the slot. Over she goes. Now both of them are working, even if you're only standing on the outside or inside. So I'm happy with that. That's the part. It's functional. Oh yeah. And let's not forget one of my favourite modifications. The nice spring made out of 4 original Ferguson parts. Reusing them to get them brakes fully off. The thing I'd like to do is hitch up this heater plug. So it's not hitched up there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a feed. I'll get the camera to focus first. I'm going to take a feed. This is the positive from the battery. Just terminal just above that there. It's the big wide one just there. I'm going to take a wire off there and I'm going to put in a nice stainless steel. Where is it gone? Push switch. So once you let go of it, the heater plug stops, right? I don't want to put in a flick switch because you could end up leaving it on. So I've got heavy wire here. I actually use twin core wire for this because I like it to be able to draw a lot of current, and it has to. So I've got some heat shrink over that. So that's going to be pushed up all over there after I crimp it. So I use these. I remove the yellow bit off them. We don't need that. And so give that a crimping and put the heat shrink on and hit it with a lighter, and it'll shrink on and it'll hold. So that's going to be plenty strong enough a wire to power that heater plug. Those heater plugs take an awful lot of current. I've put on thin wires before and they just heat up, so you're just basically wasting your energy, the battery's energy. Instead of going where it's meant to go, it just ends up, a lot of it ends up going to heat, resistance and all that. So this is definitely going to be strong enough, and so I'm going to crimp that and get that ready.